right, folks, welcome back to the last half of Real Talk. I'm your host, John Griffing, and this is the Mojo 50. Now we come to the part of our program that many of you may not have anticipated. That's right, we're going to have a Democrat and a Republican on the show at the same time. We have two prominent guests with us today, a financial investor to royalty by the name of Scott Holman. He's a descendant of the original founding families of Texas. He came over here with the original colony, Stephen F. Austin's colony. He is an admiral in the Texas Navy, and he definitely thinks that we have lost our ability to have peaceful and open dialogue in this country. And he was ready and all set to jump ship as an investor in 2016 with the third credit downgrade on the way. He's now had a little bit of his optimism renewed. We're happy to have him on the program. How are you, Scott?
Good.
All right. Well, I just couldn't pass up your thoughts on this past week because we've had some doozies. I guess let's start at the top of the pile. We had Andrew McCabe basically admit on 60 Minutes that he was part of a coup. And beyond that, the woman that they picked to try to implicate Russian crap was named Natalia. It makes me think of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I mean, where's Boris and where's the moose and the squirrel?
Yeah, it sounds like McCabe actually did try to orchestrate a coup there.
And this is stunning. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, we haven't seen, obviously, a president assassinated since Kennedy. Do you think, how serious do you think this is?
I think it's pretty serious. I mean, when you have a president that is not incapacitated and you're trying to remove him from office just because you didn't vote for him, that speaks volumes. That's like what you see in a third world country. The ICE director, for instance, is an ex-Obama chief, and he's been very much for border barriers, and he's done nothing but go out and criticizing the left rather about fighting against border barriers when they should be for it, because all the
it's insane to not be for it. What's the alternative? Every horrible, seedy criminal and terrorist worldwide come here, blow stuff up, and repeat 9/11 or worse? I mean, do liberals have a death wish, Scott?
Well, very much so. And if you think about where they're coming from, most of the caravans originate in Honduras, which has one of the highest murder rates in the country. They've got drugs, lawlessness, all kinds of crime coming up from up there, and we won't let those people come in our country unvetted. And that's asinine. Who would do that?
Well, but we can't have a preference, Scott, for the best and the brightest, because we're America. We just need to accept whatever crappy refuse and cast-offs the rest of the world want to shuck on us. Is that a fair statement? I mean, is it right, morally right for us to not discriminate against who we want to come here, or is there a case to be made for maybe having something different than a quota system?
No, all countries discriminate. We have 7 billion people in the world, most of them unskilled labor. And if you flood your country with unskilled labor, you're going to do nothing but hurt the people who are your citizens who are unskilled, who are having difficulty finding jobs already.
Even skilled labor. I mean, Bill Gates just wants more H-1Bs and L-1s, and we've got people here who are underemployed in those fields.
Anytime you're bringing, if our immigration system allows for skilled labor to come in, I'm for that, because that's good, fair competition. But
sure.
When you're bringing unskilled labor in, people who literally have no skills at all, some can't read or write, and they carry lice and disease and other things, that this is really going to put a burden on our economy. And most of these people, when they're coming from places like Honduras, where crime is an ordinary thing of the day, you're going to have crime increase here, and a lot of Americans are going to suffer.
Let me move to something else you said. You mentioned Honduras. I've got to talk about Cortez. Why is it always socialists that never fail to contradict their own paradigm within minutes of making some grandiose statement? She's already employing her boyfriend on federal money, on the federal dole. She's paying her boyfriend to work for her. Thoughts?
Well, that's kind of the way socialists work. I mean, usually a a socialist leader is the richest person in the country. And
Oh, yeah.
that's where her aspirations are. Undoubtedly, she wants to be like Chavez, who's a multi-billionaire while everyone in Venezuela starves to death and eats out of trash cans.
Or Grace Mugabe before we were done with them. We
or
had
Castro.
some great folks.
Look at Castro. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars in Western dollars. And Cuban citizens, not so long ago, it was illegal for them to own Western dollars.
Do you think there's an element in the Democrat Party maybe that thinks they can control it once it's here or use it somehow? I mean, what's the rationale?
I think the rationale is exactly what you stated. They're going to flood the country with unskilled immigrants who cannot make it on their own. They have no education. There's no way they can get there from here from there. There from to here. And they're going to be buying votes basically, and they're going to be pushing the socialist agenda. We're going to take the rich, give to the poor, and we're going to flood the country with poor so that when we redistribute all the money, there's going to be nothing left for anyone else.
Well, and it's truly despicable.
We're going to cannibalize our investment capital by taking from the business owners. And
they'll just leave.
The same way Venezuela
They'll just
did.
leave. We'll all just leave.
So, a lot will. Yes. It's a shame, but you're right.
And look, who's to blame them? We do live in a global marketplace. Is America the best country? Should we be allowed to protect and defend our system? Should our system survive? Yeah. But what happens if it doesn't? Are you going to stay just out of fondness for the memory of it? No.
Well, we're a hyper economy. We're a hyper power, hyper economic power. There's no other country in the world that can boast that. We have a lot of bright minds at the top. We have a lot of business owners who can afford to hire people. But if you redistribute those business owners' wealth to everyone else, no one's going to be able to hire anyone.
No one's equally happy in a socialist country. They're equally miserable. And even then, Scott, I love to get away from talking about socialism with their own terminology because that gives them the advantage. I don't think socialism even exists. I think socialism is actually a form of horrible capitalism, Victorian, turn of the century disparity, where you have the really, really rich and the really, really poor. The stuff of Oliver Twist. That's what it really is. Socialism has never been socialism. Don't you agree? I mean, it's just basically really bad capitalism.
Well, you don't see caravans of people leaving the United States to be the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Where people could advance themselves, unlike they could in Europe, where if you were born poor, you stayed poor the rest of your life. In the United States, all of our billionaires are self-made, almost every one of them. And that says a lot for our economy and our country.
But Scott, I mean, the French have a way better standard of living with the government telling them that they can only work 30 hours a week and that they have to take, how many paid vacation days now? I mean, surely that's better than being a self-made billionaire, Scott.
Upward mobility will never again exist.
No,
and
because
so the liberal billionaires love that idea that they can stay billionaires,
Why?
protect that billionaire status, and not have anyone that can move up and compete against them.
So really,
and that's what we need to press stop to.
That's what you. And I want to zero in on something you just said for listeners, and then I want to have you elaborate. What you just said is actually what liberals think and believe at the top. What they really believe, tell me if I'm wrong, is that they should have it and no one else should. It's a form of elitism. It's their whole existence is dependent on being validated by the idea that they are the only ones that could get this, and that's their worldview. Their worldview is you can only get wealth and attain wealth and keep wealth if you did something naughty to get it, and you see that with everybody on down to the lay liberal person that thinks that Bill Gates making $48 billion, give or take a few bill, actually takes money from somewhere else. Do these people even know how to do math?
No, he didn't take it from anyone. He created it himself.
Wait, you mean there can be another 40 billion?
Millions and millions of jobs. He created thousands and thousands of millionaires. He had people at Microsoft that were janitors, and when the company went public, they're now multimillionaires. That can only happen in America.
Yeah.
If you make
McAfee can only happen in America. That annoying thing. I'm glad someone shot that guy. Although it's still on our computers. You were saying? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that if you raise the tax rate, it punishes the poor more than it punishes the rich. And if you have someone like Bill Gates who makes a lot of money, what does he do with that money? He doesn't put it in a pillowcase. He reinvests it in his company. He reinvests it in other companies.
He rapes the earth with it. I'm sure he rapes the earth with it.
Exactly right. And they say 9 out of 10 billionaires have lost everything by the third generation. It is hard to make money, but it is harder to keep it.
Yes,
So we have our upward mobility in this country is not something where it's inherited wealth. Very little is inherited wealth anymore. Most of our billionaires earn it themselves. They became self-made, and when they get to the top, they seldom can keep it beyond 3 generations.
Thank God, because blue bloods become really creepy. Aren't we happy that the Rockefellers have dwindled to a bare? I mean, the damage these people did to the world system, the damage they were willing and going to do, the same mentality as Soros. That mentality is a mentality that thankfully is kind of held accountable by this generational cycle. Do you remember that you of course you were alive in the 80s? Do you remember the Federal Reserve study that came out in '95 called "Buy Your Own Bootstraps" that used tax stubs to actually measure the income mobility in a low tax, strong incentive climate, and how significant the upward mobility was? I think it was something like 65% of people in the poorest 2/5 of income had moved up to higher brackets by the end of the 80s. I mean, can liberals explain that?
There's no other system in the world but capitalism that can elevate the poor to a higher level of income and standard of living anywhere in the world. Socialism doesn't do that. Socialism will keep you poor. You will eliminate opportunities. People risk their lives swimming from Cuba to America for one reason and one reason only: for opportunity.
Yeah, and freedom.
If we erase that opportunity and we become communists like Cuba, no one would bother swimming over here because our economy would be
personal
bankrupt.
freedom and ideological freedom. I saw a great video, old footage of Desi Arnaz with Lucille Ball when they had just gotten married. Milton Berle was sitting right there, and he was crying. He was saying, "I'm so thankful for what I've been allowed to accomplish and been given in America." And this was right after he had made it over, and Fidel had just come to power. And you see tears like that from a man that we ended up watching reruns of with our cereal for years, and it really brings it home. There's not just opportunity, because there are jobs in other countries. What makes us different from the UK, for example? Ideological freedom. It's the fact that you and I can do this right now. Some people want to change it.
You don't have freedom of speech in the UK, believe it or not.
No,
the UK is a great country, but you do not have freedom of speech.
What's wrong with the left? Are they intentional? I guess what I want to hear from you is, do you think that there are any honest, well-meaning people on the left that truly believe that Donald Trump is a reincarnation of some sort of dictator?
I think they're all pretty disingenuous. We have more division between the right and left today than we've ever had in history. And I'm not sure what to attribute that to. Before, they could argue a point on the floor and walk away as friends later. And now it's
emotional.
Now they're
it's the
advocating
emotional rhetoric,
harassing each other at restaurants, encouraging the public to attack people.
Incitement.
And now you have people out there shooting representatives that are doing a charity baseball game.
I mean, good God.
And they're encouraging that.
Look, if the left is this unhinged from Donald Trump using powers given to him by a statute that the Democrats voted for to get it out of committee, Democrats voted for it. Provision says, look, if we can't do it this way, then here's the funding and here's the circumstance under which you can do it that way. They voted for it. I've got the statute. I've got the revisions. What is it, though? What will it take to actually calm these people down? I mean, can you have a discussion like we're having, Scott, with a whole group of people that don't think that you have a right to exist, that think your opinions aren't just wrong, they're evil? Can you talk with someone who thinks you're evil and not just incorrect?
No, it's very hard to find common ground with someone like that.
We don't want to abandon the idea of being good neighbors, right? What can average people do?
Try to keep an open line of communication. Try to talk in a civilized way with each other. Don't vilify each other. Don't try to put each other down. Listen to their opinions. and because I learn things from liberals all the time. So I listen very carefully, and sometimes I learn something. So it's always good to keep that line of communication open. Do never punish someone for their political point of view. That's what a free democracy is all about, is a free exchange of ideas. So we need to listen to each other. We need to care about each other, because we're all neighbors. We're on this planet together. What we all want, is to make the planet better for everyone, and to make our country better for everyone. Not just for the poor, not just for the rich, we all want to improve. We all want to do it better. And
all lives matter. Yeah.
Yes, all lives matter. We're all brothers and sisters on this planet. We need to share ideas. We need to quit vilifying each other, and we need to try to pull together and try to do what's right for the country. And that's what negotiation and compromise is all about. And that's what Congress should be doing. Apparently not. I think they're just pushing farther and farther left, which is probably going to hurt them in the 2020 elections.
Not if they get all those caravans here. That's the only way they were able to get a razor-thin majority in Congress. Scott, you have any final comments for our listeners?
No, not at all. Just keep your chin up and try to do your best to communicate what you feel, what your political ideology is, no matter what it is. Let people know why you think what you think, and try to keep an open mind to what they're telling you as well, and see if you can arrive on some common ground.
Scott, you're a perfect example of that. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
Okay, thanks, John.
All right. All right, folks, please welcome Dr. Christine Mann to the show. She ran in one of our local congressional races out here against Representative John Carter this last cycle. Christine, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, good to be here.
Christine, you have, it's okay if I call you Christine, right?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, for our listeners, could you please tell folks why Republicans are losing their jobs and maybe what they should conclude about that?
I think that it's because Republicans in this area, have very much been used to not being challenged aggressively. It's been a long time since they've lost elections.
Right.
And so they haven't yet recognized that the winds are changing and that there are people in their districts who don't agree with everything they're saying. And
right.
My suggestion would be to try listening to the other side. I have found it in my life in this area personally frustrating that when I approach a Republican elected official, my presence, even as a constituent, isn't welcomed. I was even asked not to make any more appointments to my congressional representative's office.
You were even threatened when you ran. If I recall, someone threatened you too, and that was not nice at all. That was not good.
Yeah, I had a noose draped over one of my campaign signs.
Not very subtle, are they?
And so, no, not at all. And so I think that if the doors would actually open to opposite points of view or differing points of view, and a conversation even entered into, it would go a long way towards helping all constituents see that they have a point of view that is being heard.
Which is why I like Christine, folks. I mean, we don't agree on everything, and in fact, there's some big issues I'm sure that we would structurally disagree on. However, at Real Talk, which is the name of my show here, we really don't want people to be divided on the basis of different perspectives. It's a really sad thing when people can't have different perspectives and learn from each other about why someone might have arrived at a different conclusion. That's the beauty of democracy that I grew up with. How about you?
Absolutely. And, during my campaign, what I really tried to do is reach out to people and incorporate other points of view into what I was trying to run on and what I was trying to express.
You certainly listen to everyone. I've noticed. I mean, folks, she really is.
You.
Like, it's not just a politician here. She actually really does listen to folks. So,
and when I run again, I'm already lining up people who identify as Republican to be on my team and help me issues in a way that does not completely politicize that we're working on.
Right.
I want to hear why people disagree with me, and can we work that out and come up with a solution that helps everyone get something. No one gets everything, and it's always going to be that way. No one's going to get everything they want. But how can we at least talk about it? How can we at least have a conversation?
Do you mind, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you mind if I ask, give our folks an example of an issue that we might be able to find common ground on, healthcare? Do you mind? Are you comfortable talking about that a little bit, or do you want to save that for another day?
No, I'm happy to talk about health care, and then if you're okay, I have another issue that gives a better illustration of what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, why don't you lead with that?
Okay. So there is this idea that tuition-free college is a far left idea. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that the state of Tennessee has debt-free college for all of their residents. And that was produced under Republican leadership.
Right.
The Republican leaders talked to the business community, and they recognize that when kids come out of college, if they hold debt, they cannot start new businesses, they don't form families, they can't buy homes. They recognize that it's a drag.
Lost generational mobility, lost upward capital investment. Yeah, there's all kinds of things impacted by that.
Yeah. So it's a drag on the economy. So from a Republican's point of view, it's of benefit to the economy for people to come out of college debt-free.
Sure.
From a Democratic standpoint, we just want people to get the education that they need, and we can do it in a fiscally responsible manner with these programs that have been done in Republican states.
In other words, people can find something in that policy concept to agree with, whatever their background.
Exactly, and that's true. Another issue that I talked about on the campaign trail was homelessness. Mm-hmm. Utah was able to, again, a Republican took the lead on this.
Our religious radicals, folks. the closest thing we have to religious radicals, the Mormons. All right. Anyway, I'm sorry, I had to.
Well, they were able to reduce. No worries. They were able to reduce homelessness by over 90%, and they did it by recognizing that homelessness costs cities and states and municipalities quite a bit of money. So they were able to save money by housing people. They called it Housing First. And again, this was a Republican initiative done in a fiscally responsible manner that satisfied that need on the Republican side and satisfied the liberal side saying people should have homes.
Well,
so
I actually started a nonprofit. I don't know, we'll have to talk about this over coffee. I started a nonprofit called Golden Years Project out of Dallas, and our whole focus is senior homelessness. Mm-hmm. And that's going to double or quadruple by some estimates in the next few years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a looming problem on the horizon.
Yes, and what do you do about it? Say, oh, that's fine, we'll deal with it when mom and dad call us and don't have a home. No, I mean, that's insane. Of course, we need to solve these things as a community, which brings me neatly to healthcare. And don't worry, I'm actually more reasonable than you might think. Folks, I haven't told you this yet, listeners, but I am a big fan of the German model because it's fully funded and because people get to pick one or the other. And if you pick private, you have to do private. If you pick public, well, it's fully funded and your taxes don't go up that much. In fact, you hardly feel it. I don't think the biggest country in the world, the United States, with the most money, can't find a way to do something like that, Christine. How about you?
On ultimate goals, and in my opinion, a single-payer system is the best option. That we could have a conversation about. Mm-hmm. But I'm working with a nonprofit right now that is trying to get a single-payer bill introduced in Texas, and we've got data that shows how many jobs each county will gain, how much money each county will save by doing this. Is again, it's
would you send those to me? I would love to post those.
Thing to do. Yes.
Thanks so much.
Yes, I will absolutely do that.
Folks, we'll have those up on Mojo 5.0's website, and we'll have it on our Facebook too. But Christine, I mean, it's things like that people start out assuming the worst about each other, and then they never actually hear what the ideas were that they found objectionable, and sometimes people don't even know what they are.
And it's so frustrating to me as someone who really wants to be working in the political realm, because I know that if I could sit down with every single Republican in my district, I'm not going to get all of them to hear what my message is,
right.
But I feel like we could find so many areas of agreement, and we just are so reluctant to have that conversation with
for
people.
example, I just mentioned the German model. I mean, it doesn't bankrupt the U.S. That was the caveat, right, that Republicans, a lot of them used on Obamacare, was because the thing added tons of debt, and it didn't achieve the objective, mainly because of a lot of Republican riders that were added into it. And I take responsibility as the only Republican nominally, folks, on this call, and just say that actually made the bill ineffective. So, yes, was it not my preference to have single payer and no other option? Of course, I'm not for something that crowds out private market options. However, can we come to a compromise? Sure, there were tons of things we could have agreed on, and nobody did their job in Congress.
That's exactly right.
So when are you running again, Christine, or do you know?
Well, I am unable because of FEC rules to make any announcements today, but that announcement and that final decision should come this coming summer.
Oh, wonderful. Well, folks, you at least know you have another flavor on the menu if you go that way, and we really appreciated you coming on today, Christine. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. It was great. Call me anytime.
All right. Have a good one. Folks, isn't that great? That's a good example of the American tradition of conversation in place of fisticuffs and, violence and coarse language. We have the democratic art of conversation and dialogue. And that is something we do embrace here at Real Talk. It's not, I know I joke around a lot. I make fun. I'm pointedly insulting to liberals who I find stupid, inane, and ill-equipped to handle those responsibilities, actually. That's the main thing I'm critical of Democrats. But when it comes to someone like Christine, it's a good thing that we be able to engage each other like that. And some things that we hear from the other side may make our skin crawl. We may not understand why they got there, how they got there with their thinking. But it's important for us to try. And also remember to have perspective, folks. Again, this is not a new problem. Democracy's foibles, okay, one of them is that we can get really passionate and really intense in our put-downs and take-downs of the other side. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, all right, Thomas Jefferson was viciously attacked by Adams, okay, in their presidential race, and vice versa. They viciously attacked John Adams. I mean, Thomas Jefferson called him a hermaphrodital character, folks. He called him a woman, basically. He said he had neither the firmness of a man nor the sense and sensibility of a woman. This is Real Talk on Mojo 5.0. I'm your host, John Griffing. Catch us weekends at 5 p.m. Bye-bye now.